Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So today I'm going to talk about the overall fitment of these 285 70 17-inch BFGoodrich KO2 tires. This is a stock 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. For those of you who aren't tracking, this does have a little bit of a lift from the previous years. They say it is 1.5 inches higher in the up front and 1/2 inch higher in the rear for the 22 model here. However, these 285s don't really fit all that well, if I'm being honest with you guys. And I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, so don't get me wrong. I went into this knowing that it was not going to be perfect, and it was going to require some trimming to maybe make it work, and I did that. I trimmed it. If you guys remember my previous videos, I did just a little bit of a minor trimming up front as well as in the rear and the front. So what I mean by that, up front on the front bumper, and then in the back toward the mud flap area, right? And I removed those front mud flaps, the OEM ones, of course. So I'm gonna show you real quick what it looks like. I'll do a real quick reminder of what the trimming was that I did do, and then I'll show you where it is rubbing with this setup. It really does require, either a different front bumper, of course, to give it the proper clearance, or at least a lift to get it to where it needs to be. And I kind of half expected that. All that to say, it is definitely livable. So I got the truck running. I'm gonna get in there and turn the wheel in a second. This is definitely livable, but you find yourself cringing a lot. And if you're going over any kind of rough surface, or even driving into a incline or a driveway, or like anywhere that you're going to be hitting a speed bump or anything, you're going to be cringing a lot because it's going to catch something. It's never catastrophic by any means with the way it's set up right now, but I do wonder if I were to be turning into a super inclined driveway at a high speed, or if you were to off-road this thing. Heaven forbid you do that with a Tacoma, right? If you're off-roading it, you're going to find yourself in a sticky position with this setup, unfortunately. So I want to be transparent with you guys. That is the case with a stock setup here. So I'll show you all different angles, so no issues with these. I should have mentioned from the beginning, there's -20 offset with these raised TE37s. So -20 offset. Plenty of space up here with the upper control arm. You're not rubbing or touching up there, which that would be a consideration had I not got that big of an offset, right? So on the stock tire, there's a chance if I were to put, or a stock wheel rather, the OEM wheel, TRD wheel, had I put these tires on that, there's a really good chance that you'd be catching the upper control arm a little bit. So obviously here, I showed you that plenty here at the beginning. I ended up trimming this piece here, right? So this right here normally sticks out another inch or so. So it would have ripped that off at this point had I not trimmed it. So that is the biggest piece. And then I took a little bit of a zip tie. Let's see if you can see it underneath. There you go, you can see it. Sorry, the truck is running, but on purpose. So I took that little zip tie there to try to pull that fender liner toward the front of the truck, if that makes sense. So using the existing hole, of course, in the front bumper, drilling a tiny hole right here in the fender liner, then pulling it toward the front of the truck. And that helped out a little bit, but we still catch just a smidge, right? Just enough for you to hear it. Out back, I'll show you on the other side too, we trimmed this piece here. And this, the fender liner, I just pushed it up over. I pushed it over the actual body metal right here. This is metal. So I just popped that over it. Otherwise it'd be covering that, normally speaking. And it looks better, of course, when it's covering it. But I trimmed this hard plastic piece that would normally extend right out to here. So it's really only like 1.5 centimeters or so, protruding, but it's just enough for where it would be catching. Let me go show you the other side with the wheel turned the other way, of course. So same cut up here, same cut, and the same zip tie pulling that fender liner toward the front. And this is where I think it's perhaps the worst. We're always tagging right on the inside here, and you can tell we are even touching at this point. This is at a full lock turn, and we're touching the fender liner right there. Again, nothing catastrophic, but you hear it. And especially, you can see here, where we're catching and rubbing a little bit. So kind of a bummer, especially if you have OCD at all. You don't want to be chopping up your truck at all right out of the gate. So I understand why this could be super cringeworthy for a lot of people, but I think we are just a small lift away from making this perfect. So by lifting it up a little bit, the point of which will actually be touching or potentially touching right here, the tire will be a little bit lower, right? If we lifted it up, the tire would be a little bit lower, so the actual what's the word I'm looking for, not apex, but you know, it'll be potentially right here. We have a little bit more space right here, so this point of the tire would be right here, if that makes sense, just with a 2-inch lift or so. Sorry, I didn't explain that well, but hopefully you get my point. So I'll pop in for fun, I'll turn the tire. So thankfully both sides match pretty well, but you do notice it more so when you're reversing. So when you're reversing, you're going to catch a little bit more. And again, this being the trouble spot, really. No rub on the inside or on the upper control arm on both sides. Okay, well guys, that is all I wanted to show you in this video. So a little bit of a bummer. It's a little bit worse than I thought it was going to be as far as rubbing. I'm not sure what I want to do. I might consider getting an Icon lift kit or perhaps King's, but I am of that stance of I don't like upgrading the whole suspension kit after buying a TRD Pro, right? You buy a TRD Pro for that sweet Fox TRD tuned suspension, which is why a lot of people will lean toward getting a Westcott Designs perch lift, and I advocate for doing that too, especially if you get the TRD Pro, right? So I'm kind of up in the air on what I want to do with it. I'd be curious to know what you guys would do in this quote-unquote predicament, and I'm maybe chalking it up to be worse than what it is. So don't get me wrong, guys, this is very much doable. But if you're actually going to try to enjoy Puppy Dog Feature, hey buddy, if you're going to try to enjoy the truck too and take it off-road, you guys know I am not an avid off-roader, nor do I try to pretend to be. But if I wanted to enjoy a trail or something and just do a little bit of off-road, even mild off-roading, I would not feel comfortable with this setup as is. Just too big of tires, and I'd be catching too much as is. So I don't know, I want people to know that before they just kind of dive into this big tire setup expecting it to work out. So at any rate, guys, let me know what you would do. Appreciate you watching as always. Hopefully a few of you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.